Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Insider Webcast.
We're back.
We are back. I'm Jeff Bergerson, joined by my partner, Zachary Turcotte, in our very tight-fitting green jackets.
We've bulked up over the years.
Yeah, right. Thanks for tuning in. You can find us at fantasygolfinsider.com, your #1 resource for everything in fantasy golf, including your home for DFS golf. We got all the tools, all the articles you need to be successful and a winning player. You can check us out for just $12.99 a month is our basic package. So you can start with that. Lineup generators at the next level package. And if you want to dive into DFS Europe, you can go to our premier package, our pro pack. So Zachary, we have a lot to talk about this week. Obviously, it's our own personal Christmas, as I put in my article, the Masters this week. Before we dive into that, though, I got to give a special shout out to our boy James Woods. Won a qualifier into the single entry tournament this week, which is a big time tournament. It's a $4,000 ticket. Shout out to him. Also, congrats to our FGI Beat the Expert contest on Fanduel. That was Ron Gunner97 is his screen name on Fanduel. He wins the, was it $200 last week? I think 200 to the winner, plus then obviously the t-shirt. So congrats to you, Ron. Also, everyone enter the drawing is eligible for a couple free entries, contest entry tickets, which they give away every week. So it's pretty cool. FanDuel. If you haven't signed up with FanDuel, you can check out the banner on the right-hand side of our website. Click through there and sign up with FanDuel because they got a great $9 contest this week, 150 max entry with the 100K up top.
Some interesting pricing over there too.
Very interesting.
A couple names that stood out. I was like, that one's a little higher than I would have.
Or lower, like Rafa. Rafa's down under like 500, like under Fred Couples. Hello. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some bizarre.
That was a surprise too. He did make my team initially when I put it on my going to the bottom, like weird.
Right. Not going to pick any.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. So I will be far too overexposed on FanDuel to Rafa, and he'll probably blow up, and as Rafa tends to do.
He set the tone last week, right?
He kind of did, didn't he? Let's talk about last week. Houston Open. Ian Poulter comes through. Just clutch.
It was amazing because you and I actually discussed this moment on the podcast last week about how he didn't quite make it. And all you have to do is win and you're in. And then we laughed and we laughed. And he won. I mean, this is actually the first true PGA event he has won in the U.S. before. He's not ever won stateside before. So to do it a week after being so disappointed the previous week, being told, yeah, well, you've qualified because you've made it this far. Oh, wait, no, you didn't. You have to win. In fact, next week, not just place near the top, you got to win the thing to get in. And he went out there. I mean, it was the 20-footer he hit to force the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just clutch. It was just it was a Ryder Cup Poulter, and then he was pounding his chest.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was exciting.
I did too.
Not the most popular of guys, but I like his swagger a little bit.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
So I thought that was cool. I thought it was exciting, and we'd actually mentioned Bo Hosler as well on the show as being a Texas guy, potentially doing something he can't come in with kind of poor form.
And I was kind of rooting for him because I wrote him up in my Crystal Ball article this year, so I would like to add a winner. I mean, a second ain't terrible for him. But
yeah, it'd be a nice notch to add
right.
to get a winner off of something like that.
But when he plunked it in the drink out of the sand trap in the playoff, that was miserable.
Yeah, I wanted him to just concede.
Yeah, I know. Painful.
He spent another 15 minutes just going through and making Poulter wait. Maybe that was a little gamesmanship on Ian, although he wasn't rattled at all.
Maybe it was just a replay of Chris Kirk on Friday with the same. I'm watching that. That was painful as hell.
Yeah,
he did the same thing, right? Put it in the drink out of that same sand trap, I think.
There were a couple of guys who did choke pretty hard. Rafa being the one also that we mentioned, who just 2 years in a row now in Houston leading into Augusta. Obviously last year it didn't work out for him very well in blowing the cut. This was kind of the point in the season last year where the wheels fell off for a couple of months and they didn't make it back for a while. But so he got out of there. A couple other guys kind of folded up on me too. Johnny Vegas just decided Saturday he had enough.
Yeah,
complete meltdown over the back.
Went +6.
And, it was just ridiculous. He had played really well up till that point. A guy who lives down in Texas, played golf at Texas. He's done well at the course. No reason. Looked great the first 2 rounds. really no reason for the meltdown there. So that hurt me a little bit. Cash games across the board were winners for me. But because I did end up losing Kokrak and Vegas on Saturday, that ended up taking me down slightly for GPPs. Did you have any success yourself?
I loaded up on Spieth, so that worked out. He outperformed all the other top tier guys, and he actually should have won. He missed a few 3-footers again during the week, and he makes those. And
yeah, that's the crazy thing. Like he still took third place.
Yeah.
And he ended up losing, I think, over 3 strokes in terms of strokes gained putting throughout the duration.
For the tournament, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
It was bad. Yeah, he started out the first day. I think it was okay.
He was pretty good the first day.
It wasn't too bad, and then just over the last 2, not so good again. So he was. I think he ended up being like 110th or something in terms of strokes gained putting for the weekend. So exceptionally, he was number 1 tee to green.
He has been.
So his tee to green game is better than where it was at this time a year ago. But his putting just so much worse. I'm not sure if it's in his head. I actually don't think it'll hurt him at all this week at Augusta.
It'll help him to be on these greens, I think.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be slick. Everyone's going to be missing 3 and 4 footers.
Have a tough time. So for him to be missing those, it's not going to show up quite as much in the numbers. And it was actually, somebody put out an interesting tweet today. I think it was Tim Frank on Twitter, showing over like the last 7 or 8 years where guys ranked for the season in terms of strokes gained putting. And I don't think any of the last 7 or 8 winners have been inside the top 100.
Oh, sure.
On the season. So on the season,
Sergio, Bubba, yeah.
Even the year Phil won it, he was terrible that year. For whatever reason, he had that 2 or 3 year stretch. Because I was surprised when I saw Phil on that list and then looked him up, and there were 2
that
or 3
particular
years. Yeah, there was like 2010, 11, 12. He was not so good. And then after that, caught fire again and figured it out. But really interesting to see how many guys really have struggled. So, he had a great week. It was interesting at the top. Stenson did well. I thought that was a decent contrarian play. And then Ricky, like he was going to be up.
Do you want to know what happened to Ricky? I happened to Ricky.
Oh, you were also
That's what happened. No, I didn't own him. I owned Spieth. All it took was for me to say on, I think it was early Saturday morning, I said to someone, Ricky's going to win this thing. That's when he was, I think he was like top 5 at that point and just looked like I was like, Ricky's, and he probably didn't birdie a hole after that point, after I said that.
It was terrible. Saturday and Sunday were just awful. I don't really know what to make of him right now headed into Augusta.
Not good.
It doesn't seem very promising.
No.
I mean, his game was in obviously a much better place. Statistically, he was just a monster in every category last year, but this year it just hasn't carried over. I don't know if it's a confidence issue or...
And he has these blow-up holes, too. And he did it again Saturday, didn't he? I put up an 8 on a par 5.
Yeah, he just never recovered.
Man.
He never made a charge at all after I finished 43rd for the week. So that was rough. It was an interesting leaderboard. I mean, from top to bottom. There weren't really a lot of true like chalk plays that sort of came through. I mean, I was big with Luke List, and there's another guy who just could not sink a putt.
He couldn't
on Sunday. I mean, there's at least 5 putts that I think a normal player makes 4 of 5, maybe 5 of 5.
Yeah,
he hits all of those. He's in the top 5. He misses all of them. He ends up 24th. Phil tried to escape on Saturday. I thought maybe he was going to make an exit before kind of rallying back a little bit. I think he was like 24.
When he was -5 through his first 6 holes on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, hello.
Which is,
And then it went downhill from there quickly.
Saturday, the first 9 were not too promising. I actually did think he was going to get hit by MDF. He didn't. He actually played through it, which showed something. Sunday he played well, but again, 24th when you've paid $10,000 for him, that's not good. Not going to help you out either. So
Russell Henley had a Sunday charge.
Henley was solid.
And I faded him, so I was looking really good heading into Sunday. But then he storms back. Was he -7, I think, on Sunday, and got back into T8.
There's like 6th or 8th or somewhere around there. So he ended up playing really well, but wasn't really a lot of the stars that ended up making it up there. A lot of mixed sort of names, middle of the road type of players. So, although it wasn't really terrible, it wasn't really great. We just didn't get enough representation near the top to pull through for the GVVs. But Cash still ended up cruising there, bottom of the board, even with Vegas blowing it on the MDF. Piercy came through for me. James Hahn came through for me. I used JB Holmes and Cash, who squeezed through after barely making. I thought he was dead on Friday. I was pronouncing the cut line at -4. It looked for sure like it was going to be. There were like 75 guys at -4 or better. And then I blinked, and then all of a sudden it was at 70, and it was rolling right on the line, and we got those guys through. So Cash ended up working out real well, but just not enough weight up at the top to pull through for any big GPPs.
Shall we turn the page on Houston and head to Augusta?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll give you some stuff to know, and then you can fill in the rest. The Masters from Augusta, Georgia, Augusta National Golf Club, 7,435 yards. It's a par 72. Remember the cut rule for the Masters. It's different than it is every other week. It's not top 70 in ties, it's top 50 in ties, and then anyone within 10 strokes of the leader. So given that there is what ended up being in the field, 85 guys, and what are 12 guys are like old timers or something like that.
Oh yeah, there are 20 guys who are pretty much irrelevant this week. So if you don't get 6 of 6 for a lineup this week, Cash and GPPs probably dead. I mean, unless your 5 of 6 contains a bunch of the winner and some other top 10 players.
You're not going to win a GPP with 5 of 6.
No
matter how they finish.
Because the odds are pretty good that we're going to see at least, I would say, 55, maybe 60 getting through the cut. If the scoring if the scoring is not going really low, then that line just ends up getting really extended. So you could very well see 60 guys playing throughout the weekend.
Tons of elevation changes, as you can attest to, having walked it. Driver is necessary off just about every hole that isn't a par 3, I would say. So bombers do have an edge, but there have also been some less than bombers who have had success here in the past. So
you also have to kind of note that the course over the years, since Tiger first conquered it, they've been stretching it out further and further. And with the advent of the new golf balls that go farther and farther, I mean, so they've really stretched that thing out. Over the years as well. The rough is cut pretty short, so it's not necessarily a big issue. You got to stay hopefully away from that pine straw. I mean, the pine straw can be kind of messy. I still envision Sergio last year that miracle shot on 13 out of that mess to kind of save his hole there. So that pine straw can be a little bit of an issue. There are some trees that are out there, but the real biggest issue is going to be hitting greens. They get there's a lot of elevated greens, so a lot of the holes kind of come down
and they're shaved. So there's a lot of runoff.
You're going to be shooting up towards a lot of the greens. They're very well protected, lots of bunkers that are around them, and there's very precise locations. So I mean, they can really screw with the way a hole plays based on where they place that pin. There's that undulation that you don't really see on TV. You see it as you're up close, and so if they put the pin, in a nice flat area on there, guys will just be hitting it, rolling it over. But if they put it, on the front or the back, it'll just roll right off the green. It is amazing to see up close. I'll probably tweet it out again, but we watched Justin Thomas on the 7th hole 2 years ago hit this putt towards the hole on 7, and it's rolling so slow. It looks like he hits it perfect, and then it hits just a little lip down towards the pin, and then just keeps rolling about 40 feet past. And Thomas is just sitting there with this club, with this look on his face. Justin Thomas kind of look of rage building on his face as it just continues to roll by. So it's really incredible. And that's where I think a lot of the experience plays in when those guys are. That's why a guy like Phil, that's why a guy like Freddie Couples can still compete every year, because they know the course like the back of their hands. So they know on every hole where they want to put the ball in the fairway, where they want to put the ball on the greens. So that, I think, is why course experience and course history plays a much bigger role this week than a lot of other weeks that we'll see.
Absolutely. And it's very difficult. I don't think maybe 2 or 3 guys in history have been won in their first appearance at Augusta.
I think there's 3. I think the last one they said was Fuzzy Zeller back in like 79, and the others were from like the 30s. So, I think Spieth got
it just doesn't happen
a few years ago on his debut, but other than that, there are not too many real notable examples. So.
Bent grass greens, like you had said, there's a lot of runoff. What else are you looking for? So I'm looking a lot at approach. I like the idea of scrambling and around the green play this week, because I think even if you do hit a decent approach shot, it could still run off, and you need to be able to get up and down and save par, because a lot of the par 4s, you need par. that's like a birdie on most courses is scoring par, and then really the par fives are where you need to rack up the scores, and the scores are never really too high.
No, it's we had Spieth a couple of years ago, 2015, where he just took off and put an absolute beating on the course. But the conditions were really perfect that year too. I mean, there really wasn't much to deal with in terms of wind or weather or anything like that. So he just beat it up from beginning to end. I think the stat that I'll be looking for, if you guys check it out on the website, strokes game, short game.
Yep.
So that's a combination of both scrambling and putting. So obviously, putting, it's not something I want to just wait in and of itself and say, well, this guy's putting great, I'm going to be using him.
Right.
But I want to make sure of guys who are both scrambling and putting well for the week. So that will be something that I look for. Ball striking is going to be huge this week.
Yep.
The more I'll weight it slightly more towards driving distance than on the other two components. I'll take accuracy probably down, and I'll probably take regulation up a little bit higher. So those are probably the primary areas that I'll be looking at.
And you can manipulate all of those in the FGI model, and I do that every week. I talk about that in my column, is just play around with the numbers, shift it, and see what names pop up toward the top of the list. You can also do that, on the rolling stats too. Check out sort by different areas, and you can sort by short game and see the guys who excel in that area. Definitely. And I kind of did that myself and came to a lot of guys that I had already kind of liked coming into the week, so that just kind of solidified it for me. Do you want to look at the salaries?
Yeah, we might as well. This is where things get kind of tricky this week. This is probably the most star-studded Masters we've had in the last, gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 years at least.
If somehow, I think it's probably going to be one of the more viewed ones in history, especially if you got Tiger and Phil up, contending on Sunday. Yeah, it's going to be nuts.
Anything where Tiger is near the top, things are going to get absolutely crazy out there. I am incredibly excited. The big thing right now in terms of looking over these salaries, I just don't want to overthink things too much. I mean, this is where you do your research, you pick the players that you really like, and then I think you just end up riding with them. Too many times I think we get it into our heads of, well, I'm going to pick this guy at the top. I really think he's going to win. But then, no, this guy here, I don't think he's going to be that heavily owned. Yeah. So I'm going to shift all my shares over to there. And then you end up being wrong on both counts and kind of kicking yourself. And this is one of those weeks where the top is just so stacked. It's not going to shock me if any of the guys in like the top 10 to 15 or so, if any of those names popped out as the winner this week. I don't think it would be terribly shocking to anybody at least.
No. And I talk about this in my column also, is if you're looking at strategically fading certain guys, and I think the highest owned guys are going to be Spieth, Justin Rose,
maybe the most popular.
Yeah, I think he actually will. But the downside is not as low as it would be in other tournaments, because you'd already talked about it's almost impossible to miss the cut for these guys. So they're guaranteed 4 rounds. So what's really his downside?
Yeah, I mean, if Rose takes 10th and you faded him, have you really crushed him?
No. Even if he takes like 15th, you're not dead with this pricing, because you can load up with another stud there who, if they wins, it's not great, and you probably won't win the Millie Maker, most likely, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose.
The Millie Maker for here is a little different than the Millie Maker for the other 3 majors, in that with the field this small, and there's probably only 50 guys that you're really seriously considering, this tends to be one of the more chalky Millionaire Maker events each year. I mean, I can still remember the team in 2015 that won it with Spieth, Phil, Rose, Kevin Na, Charlie Hoffman, and Russell Henley.
Yeah.
So you look at that list, there really isn't anybody out there on there. I mean, we had 2 years ago, there was sort of a weird anomaly where I think Troy Merritt managed.
Troy Merritt was in it.
He was like 43rd.
Right.
It was really weird. I think somebody just spent way down to get him and then loaded up.
Well, I think they had a couple guys tied for second. Like Lee Westwood.
They had Westwood, which they were one of the few at Westwood. They had Spieth, who was the highest score, even though Willett was in there too. So they had everything else.
Yes. Yeah.
So they had one obscure play, but that's a little bit rare. Typically here, you tend to get some much more chalky teams than you do for the other few, where you have to find that 1 or 2 players who are 2% owned to kind of push your team over the top. So, don't get too desperate here with your teams this week. If you're going to build 10 or 20 teams, just stay fairly concentrated in terms of who you're going to be. You don't want to pick 30 different guys if you're only building 10 different teams.
Right.
Because then you're just hoping that the one team that has the one or two teams that maybe has that lower exposed player who does well go off. You just don't give yourself enough bullets and enough opportunity. So stick with your convictions. Keep your player pool pretty tight if you're only going to build a few teams there. And realize with a Millionaire Maker, almost all the prize money is tied up near the top. It goes from
near the top,
$1 million to what is that?
150.
150 for a second. Yeah. So I mean, it's
you take like 15th out of God knows how many, or is it 200,000 or
200,000?
200,000, you win like a couple $1,000,
right?
And you're just like, oh,
yeah. So don't kick yourself too hard, but do make sure you give yourself a lot of shots. You want to have, if you do happen to hit everything right on the head, you want to have 3 or 4 teams that are kind of vying for the win, so you don't have to depend on just one guy pulling you through or one guy who can completely take apart your team. So.
Let's look at the top. I told you who I think is going to be the heaviest owned. Who are you liking up top here? I kind of, I really like Spieth, and I was kind of banking on him, and I liked him last week as well, which I had him so heavily in my core. Yeah. Now, with his performance at T3, I think that's going to jack up his ownership to probably 30%.
I saw you jumped him all the way to 30.
I think he might approach 30.
God, that seems way aggressive. I can't see it being much higher than. I can't see him being too much higher than 20.
What?
I don't think. Well,
stop.
With JT there, with Rory.
Yeah, but JT is not going to be heavily owned.
I know, but he'll have some. He'll have probably in the 15.
15. Yeah.
But Rory's going to be close to 20%.
Yep. Rory will be over 20%. Right.
Right there.
Yep.
You know that Rose is going to be well over 20. I think 25%, possibly
more
in that range.
More.
Possibly more.
Yep.
So I don't think Spieth will get higher than 20. I think 20 to 22% would be kind of a ceiling.
All right.
For me on that. I still, just looking at the research, looking at my numbers, Justin Thomas was the one that kind of popped out for me the most. The biggest attraction there for him is obviously that his history has been a little bit mixed here overall. But I think he is a much different player
probably
than he was before.
Yeah.
So overall, I kind of went back and forth in my head because I am thinking that DJ may end up. We see DJ at the highest salary be the lowest owned player of the group. We see it again and again and again. And I made mention of it to a few people who kind of laughed and said, DJ will never be low owned. We've seen it this season.
Low owned under 15%.
He could be 30.
I think it could be
12, 13%. I think that would be very reasonable in terms of an expectation. I don't think he'd get much lower. But
no, I don't think he will either. But I think he's going to be right around where Justin Thomas ends up. I think they'll be pretty within a few percentage points, right around the 15% mark. Yeah. Probably not much higher because I think guys are going to go to Spieth, Tiger, and Rory up top there.
So let me say this: if I were, because it's different depending on the contest, so I'll probably play more JT in the Millionaire Maker.
Okay.
If I were to build one team for like a Thunderdome style of event, I would probably push in on DJ because if there's 200 players that are involved in that, DJ might be like 7% owned.
Agree with you.
Something like that.
Yep.
It's dramatic, the difference.
And those guys are value hogs. You will almost always see the balanced rosters, and they ignore the top price.
Well, and that's where you may see now. And it's interesting though, those guys, because we know them personally, because you see them tweeting all the time. You see their attitudes. A lot of them specifically don't like Spieth, so he may kind of stay hovering around that 20% range. Rory is a guy who they do tend to like, so he may be the one who gets the big spike overall. Rose, I could see Rory and Rose both being over 30%
in those contests. It'll be way over. It'll be 40-50% for Rose.
So I think if you're playing in that style of a contest, and this goes for the 25 player contest that James is going to participate in this week.
Yep.
Because a lot of people are going to just hand the value plays there. They're going to hand value. So if you wanted to, in that 25 player contest, if you own DJ, you might be the only one who owned DJ in that contest.
Could be.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So I think if you're thinking of it in those circumstances.
And would you be shocked if DJ won it?
Absolutely not.
No.
I mean, he's top 10 in the 2 years before he got injured last year. He hasn't played badly this year. He just hasn't been as dominant.
Well,
as
he played badly at the match play, but
yeah, he definitely wasn't solid
outside of that.
Right, but yeah, stroke play events, he's been fine. Just not nearly as dominant as what we saw at this point last year.
No.
So those are, I guess, my kind of thoughts up at the top.
Dropping down to the middle, I think Paul Casey's going to have some ownership because of his last 3 appearances here have all been solid. Plus his form coming in has been outstanding. Right. And he's 8,800, which is really cheap price. I think a lot of people are going to start with Rose and Casey.
Yep.
For sure in cash games, but also GPPs.
I think even in cash, you could even go Rose, Fowler, Casey.
Sure.
Right there. I mean, that's kind of how I started off.
Would you do Fowler in cash right now?
I think so.
You just think he's too good of a value at 9K?
I think so, yeah. I mean, you don't get him that often. He does play pretty well at the Masters. You're not going to see a lot of guys below the cut overall this week. And again, he hasn't been terrible overall. He just hasn't been quite as good as he was last year. I just think 9K is a great price for him. Much like dropping down a little bit at like 8,400. Hideki, I think, is a very similar position.
Yeah.
Where, he's coming off of the injury, but it's apparently not a major type of injury.
Right.
He's kind of played through a little bit of rust the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's never been great at match play, so it wasn't shocking that he wasn't amazing there.
A hell of a lot of upside though, and he will be low owned this week.
And he's 8,400 for Hideki. I mean, you don't see that very often. So I think there's another guy where you just take advantage of your opportunities. So I think cash games, you can definitely start with any 3 of those 4
Sure.
and still have plenty of room down below in that mid 7K range as well, because there's still plenty of star power down there.
Do you think the defending champ could be a little bit overlooked?
At 8,600?
Yeah,
I know.
I haven't heard a lot of buzz in the industry about him.
No, and especially after you see Bubba coming on strong. He's got 2
right
wins
there
this year, and I think Bubba will be popular. And
Bubba and Casey right there, right above him.
Man, and I may end up kicking myself pretty hard, but I don't know that I will own very many shares of Bubba. I don't know if he'll be a complete fade, but he'll probably be an underweight for me overall.
Sure.
And my thought on that there is he's had the 2 wins at Augusta. We kind of talked about it a little bit last week. The other appearances that he's had here over the years haven't been that amazing. He's missed a few cuts. He's finished in the 30s, 40s over the years. So outside of those 2, he's been incredibly boom or bust. Now, obviously, in the boom years, you were pretty excited, but I think there may be enough people that do flock his way based on what we've seen that it might be a decent spot for a tactical type of fade.
I agree with you, because you have to make some decisions here. You can't roster everybody, so come up with a rationale like that, and I don't think that's a bad strategy. And not hearing anything about Sergio this week, we could just have the classic defending champ. No one's talking about him, and then he goes out and
the pressure's
does
off, right? I mean,
sure.
The pressure's off. You won here a year ago. I don't think defending is really going to be something that gets into his head at all.
No.
And he's played pretty well overall this season. Really haven't seen a lot of downside for him. I think 8,600, that's just about the same area that he was priced last year. Fits pretty easily onto pretty much any team that you're going to build. So I don't mind that at all. And the thing is with Sergio is, and we say it all the time, is he doesn't have to win at that price.
No.
A lot of people would say every year on these Millionaire Maker shows, he can't win. And we were kind of in agreement with that. Even last year, I went back and reread my column for 2017 when I wrote him up and I included him in my player pool. I said, he's not going to win.
Did you really?
I did.
So you're to blame for that, huh?
He's not going to win, but he's going to be right there. And you don't need every one of your 6 guys to win the tournament for you. So it's a solid play there too. So
dropping down a little bit, low 8K range. Adam Scott, 8,000 is an interesting name to me. I'm not sure.
I'm in.
You're in, okay.
I'm in. And again, it kind of gets back to our Spieth discussion before. Struggling with his putter, as always. But just a real pure ball striker. He's had great success here over the years. Came in last year, wasn't exactly on form. Top 10 finish overall. You get a lot of value at 8,000. Again, not a guy who has to win for you, but as long as he's competitive, puts on a reasonable performance, you can get quite a bit for 8,000 there with decent amount of upside.
Sure. I kind of like Patrick Reed at 7,700 for GPP purposes.
I'm not in on Patrick Reed.
Why not?
He's Augusta.
Trending well.
He's played at Augusta State. He's trended pretty well. For whatever reason, he has. He played well last year at the PGA Championship, so he had a shot to win there. Majors, really, he hasn't risen to the occasion over the years. Augusta has always kind of given him fits. What do you like about him this week, just as he hasn't been talked up? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to be heavily owned. I love his around the green game. He's one of the best scramblers in the world. He's trending nicely. He's played really well, looked good at match play. beat Spieth heads up after and won the pool. And I just have always kind of liked Reed to contend in major events coming up. So
he will be low owned. I can't see him being more than 7, 8%.
And I was going to put 15% exposure to him, 12 to 15%, which would put me overweight. I just think he's got a lot of upside at 7,700, and there aren't a whole lot of guys I like in this upper 7K range.
You talked about Stenson the other day.
I did.
Are you back off of him now?
No, I have him in my core.
Okay.
He's playing really well right now. And it's not like he's played terribly at Augusta. He just hasn't gotten over that hump.
Yeah,
he's put up those mid-teen finishes. But if you look, I mean, his scores, that's only a few strokes difference from really popping at Augusta. It's not a huge margin. So 7,800.
It's unheard
of
to get him at a price like that. He doesn't miss a lot.
Kind of silly.
He missed last year. He wasn't playing very well last year. He's played better this year.
Again, GPP play. I'm not going to roster him in cash because the guy could literally just nosedive on day one and check out mentally. But he looked good last week at Houston.
Yeah, and that's has some similarities with Augusta. So
the last couple of weeks, I thought he had the potential of bailing early. Like especially last week with Augusta ahead, and if he starts slow, he tends to check out.
Yeah, no, I think that's a decent play. I think, looking at cash game plays, 7,600, Matt Kuchar, Mr. Cash Game. He looked great at Houston.
It's too bad because I love Matt Kuchar at Augusta every year, and his form's been really bad this year.
Yeah.
It's been he has not been playing well, but then he looked good last week. He
always very good.
He does. Yep. And he's the kind of plotter who's going to par those par fours. He's not going to get into big trouble. He's going to be in contention, and then scoring a couple par fives, and boom, he's got a top 10.
Yeah, this guy can always scramble and putt, which even though his tee to green game hasn't been quite as amazing, he's not going to need to score quite as much to hang tight. Now he got a hole in one last year, which obviously helped him out quite a bit. But yeah, overall at 7,600, we kind of talk. At least I talk in my column a little bit about when you want to really own him. When he's in that mid range, this is a kind of a low point. 7,600, like 8,400, where he will be in a lot of these bigger fields. You want to be in on him because there's just not a lot of downside there. He doesn't miss a lot of cuts in events like these. When he's up at like 10,000, 11,000, in events where he's the big name,
he's got to do too much.
Those are kind of the weeks where you want to stay away a little bit more. So 7,600, this is a low spot. It's a great buying opportunity.
Absolutely. Dropping down a little bit more, there's a lot of guys in this. From 7,500 to 7,000, there's a lot of decent options where I think the winner of the Millionaire Maker is going to be determined probably in this range with a guy or two here, because there's guys who can pop top 10s in this range here.
Sure.
Who you liking in this range? A couple guys. I know you like Brian Harmon at 7,500, right? Or have you cooled on that?
No, I'm gonna take my shot.
Okay.
He's played really well over the last year as far as the tee to green game is much better than anything he's ever had at a previous point in his career. Always a guy who's great around the greens in terms of scrambling, putting. So if you're looking for strokes gained, short game, he's going to be right up there near the top overall. Obviously, he's a Georgia guy. He's a he's Bulldog. So so that should all kind of play well. I feel like he's going to be confident coming in. He's looked really good. Obviously, coming off of the match play event, he took down Rory. Looked pretty solid there. So, and he's never a guy that people flock to, which is what I like in that area, because there are some other names that I think people will have high ownership numbers. I feel like Harmon comes in at around 7%, and there's probably a pretty high range of where he could finish. I just feel like he does have that potential to give us that top 10 upside at a low owned number. So
fair enough. Webb Simpson 7,300.
I'm interested.
He doesn't play real well at Augusta.
Yeah, I'm nervous because obviously the putter is much improved.
Oh, it's been
short
great.
Game is very good, but his tee to green game is not quite as good.
It hasn't been, no.
Even when his tee to green game has been really good here, he really hasn't given us a lot over the years. So I guess I'm a little bit nervous about that. I think if I do own him, it will be a smaller share than maybe what I originally thought. Probably in like the 5 to 10% range.
How about Kevin Kisner?
I'm out.
He's a guy I can never get right, but it would make sense for him to play well here.
Yeah. Are you in on him?
He's not in my core.
I mean, the last couple of years he's been bad.
Yeah.
he hasn't really shown up.
And whenever he's been in my core, he's been blah.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good, obviously, in the match play.
He wasn't in my core.
But that was about it.
Yeah.
I mean, besides that, he hasn't really shown us a whole lot for the rest of the season. So he was the guy. Him and Hadwin were both the guys. Now, Hadwin is a guy.
He's going to be popular this week, I think.
What is popular for him?
Plus 10.
Okay.
10 to 15, I think.
Okay.
Probably, I would say even he could reach 15. Because I've heard several people mention his name in the podcast, throughout the industry. And
I mean, the numbers,
7,200.
The rolling numbers, if you look at them, are there.
Very good.
In the tee to green, the approach game. What's odd about Hadwin this year is his putter hasn't been that good.
Right.
That's usually the strength. He's been like a top 10 guy over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I put that in my column.
Somewhere close, but that has been off this year. Although that, again, shouldn't be the part that hurts him so much at Augusta. If he just gets a little bit hot with his putter and is hitting it that well with his irons.
Ding, ding, ding.
Could be, yeah. Could be.
Anyone in the sub 7K range that interests you at all?
Before this week, before 2 weeks ago, I wanted to just shove all my chips in on Kevin Chappell. Before he walked off against Ian Poulter with the back injury.
Sure.
That's the last thing you want to hear 2 weeks before Augusta. And
is it legit?
That's what makes it tricky. The thing that makes me think that it might be is the pounding that he took from Tommy Fleetwood in the second match, and then the pounding that was taking place against Poulter. It wasn't like he had a close match with Fleetwood, just barely lost.
Sure.
He went out and it was close, and he walked out. He got killed against Fleetwood. He was getting killed against Poulter, and then he's like, I've had enough. I'm out of here. I don't know what to do with that because he's been so good. The tee to green game, if you're looking for just a pure tee to green player at that price
very
range,
good.
I mean, that's your guy, right? I mean, that I think has to be your guy, given how well he's played this year. And then he showed last year what he can do when he gets just a little bit hot, and how well that he can play those longer par fours in terms of his iron play with top 10 finish. So I don't know. I'm sure we'll get next to no information about it.
We won't, but that's how I'm playing it. Is no one else is going to have any information either, so I'm going to take a little bite.
I will.
Yeah. And if he goes down, then I lose, whatever it is, 8% of my teams or something. But I think he's that good, and he could do that well, and at that price.
What about yesterday's winner?
7,600.
And brilliant course history here at Augusta over the years.
What do you think? I think it's okay.
He is definitely in for cash games. I think you can definitely play him on cash lines. It'll be interesting to see if the momentum carries over as far as ownership. I don't think it'll be too heavy because he's the same price as Kuchar. Cantlay is right there. A couple other guys. I mean, it might reach like 9-10%.
That's what I was going to say, 10% tops. But
that's not going to scare me away.
No.
So if you want him, I could see you owning some shares. I haven't decided yet because obviously the last couple of weeks have just been building and building and building player pools without the last few guys. And now Poulter's in there, so definitely a guy that I will be considering. I probably won't be like an overweight on him, but I think he's going to make my player pool.
I feel like we've seen it both ways. Guys hit that high and continue on, and then guys who hit that high and just that was it.
Gary Woodland?
Yeah, right. Yeah, boom. You hit it, you accomplish what you were trying to accomplish, you're there, and then you just have this monstrous letdown.
Yeah, Roy a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
Played great, got his win.
I was thinking like Bryson DeChambeau winning to get in the Open Championship last year and then just forgot how to play golf.
Yeah.
I mean, given he traveled a lot, that was a different different situation. But
mentally, it will be exhausting having gone through the 4 days. It's pretty funny. He literally, at Thursday night, because he shot +1 the first round in Houston. He went back to his hotel, packed his bags up to get ready to go. After his tweet Friday was, came back to the room, unpacked everything, and we're here for the weekend.
Right.
I think he shot like -8 or something crazy.
That probably happened to a lot of guys at -3 who are done. They probably packed their stuff and were ready to get out.
Oh yeah. Friday for sure. Yeah, exactly, because they thought the cut could
be at 4.
So,
yep.
Yeah.
Anyone else down in this lower range that interests you at all?
There's a couple, but I think I'm going to save the last.
For your column. Very good. I'd like to see Freddie Couples do good.
He usually does.
6,700. He does.
You know what, it's tricky to play him this year. He just hasn't played very much at all. That usually means his back is acting up on him and he's not feeling that great. So last year coming in, he had actually pretty decent form on the senior tour, if I remember right. So it wasn't as much of a shock when he came in and played reasonably well. But with the little activity that he's had so far, that does concern me that the old age may be catching up a little bit with Freddie this year.
He's won me so much money. Prior to even DFS days, when I was doing Masters pools back in the day, I would have Freddie couples every year, lock him in my Masters pools, in the local pools, and no one would pick him because he was too old, and he would always do well.
It's fun when he's playing well.
Yeah. Yep.
And I don't know that we'll have the old guy. Like in the last few years, when I was out there a couple years ago, it was Bernhard Langer, who made the big run deep into the third round and was incredible. And this year, he hasn't even shown too much so far. It's been a little bit of an off year for him on the seniors circuit. So, yeah. Did
you see Angel Cabrera's price on Fanduel?
That's what I was going to mention about guys who. And now that we've brought it up, they laughed at it. Get your money in there, Adam, because I saw it, I'm like, wait a minute. Isn't it 10,000, whatever it is? It's just crazy high. You look at all the players that he's priced in front of him, like, what did they use? The rest of it, because I feel like him and Cabrera-Bello are the ones. Maybe they got those mixed up. Cabrera and Cabrera-Bello. They got those two mixed up. I could see that. I could see a programmer making that mistake because he should have been 7,400. And Cabrera-Bello should have been 10-2. I'm almost sure that I'm talking about it. That's what happened in terms of the pricing. So yeah, that was the one where I'm like, whoa. What the?
So funny.
Yeah.
Anything else to talk about, to chat about? It's been so long since we've had a webcast. We got Will back there. He's doing well. It was good to see him again. Good to be back on the webcast.
We'll do a few more this year.
Yeah, we'll do the majors for sure. Maybe the players.
Yeah, we'll have a few.
Wish I could go back to the players this year. That was so great.
Probably a little nicer than some of the weather we're getting.
Yeah, we're having a blizzard. It's freaking April, and I just drove through a freaking blizzard. I'm just over it. The whole winter has been awful. Kids have been sick for like 95% of the entire winter. Yeah. It's been shit.
My house is a mess. There's socks.
Your house? What is it? Why can't people pick their shit up? I'm so tired of it.
Crazy.
Just pick up socks. There's socks and balls everywhere. Yeah. All right. If you have any questions for us, we're at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. You can hit us up on Twitter @fantasygolfers. Otherwise, good luck this week. I hope one of Team FGI can somehow hit that $1 million. That would be freaking amazing. Best of luck this week to everybody, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good luck.